Hello, this is Tom from anti-proton.com. This is a quick answer for iSuperiorReviews who asked me a couple basic questions. Sorry, I'm a little tired. I'm like dying, and I had a glass of scotch. So yeah. Anyway, so basically, first question. This would be easier than just typing it. God, I mean, they only have a 500 character limit. I mean, how am I supposed to answer a question in 500 characters? You know, YouTube's stupid. Anyway, let me answer the question. Okay. 1. How does or can a radioactive object make another object radioactive without being contaminated from the first object? So I have an object and an object. This one's radioactive, this one's not. How can, well, this one, yeah. How can the radioactive object make the non-radioactive object radioactive without, like, contaminating it? Okay, the answer is yes, it can do it, but you and I are probably never going to see it happen. I've actually done it myself before, but you have to do weird stuff. Okay. Normally radiation is going to be alpha and beta particles. Those are decays flying off. The result of those decays are going to be gamma rays and X-rays, which are also going to be flying off every direction. Most of those, when they strike a target, are not going to make it radioactive. I mean, I can take a tremendously radioactive source and put it against something for a little while, pull it apart, and the object that I put it against doesn't have any radioactivity left over. In order to make something radioactive, you have to change the number of protons or neutrons that are in it. This happens in neutron flux. Let me explain. If I took a piece of, what would be a good example? If I took a piece of americium-241, for example, don't do this, by the way, too. This would be a really stupid thing to do. Not like smoke alarm level. I'm talking like a really powerful piece of it, like you know, like 1,000 smoke alarms worth, a big chunk like this. You know, an illegal quantity that you need an NRC license for anyway. If I took a chunk of americium-241 and I stuck a piece of beryllium up against it, like, you know, thunk right onto it, I would get neutron flux. Neutrons would be flying everywhere. Those neutrons would then hit things that are non-radioactive, especially heavy, dense targets, like metal, for example, like my ring. And the neutron would be absorbed into the object. Once the neutron got into the object would change its isotope. You know, so whatever isotopic number something was, it would become the next number up in isotope. Same element, different isotope. And then usually very quickly it would beta decay, and almost always beta positive decay. It would lose a beta particle and it would jump. It's kind of complicated the way it works. What would be an example? I can't think of a good example. But anyway, I don't have my isotopic chart around here to give a good example, but basically, like if you took platinum and you shot platinum with a neutron, it would become a slightly more heavy, higher isotope of platinum, which would quickly beta decay to gold. And then you have gold. And then that itself could decay to something else, who knows. So the point of the matter is high energy protons and high energy neutrons are capable of doing it. Only when there's a lot of them, though. I mean, it's not like they don't do it when there's a few. It's just you can't tell. There's no way you could figure it out. You need a whole bunch of them before you can make enough radioactivity to tell. After a nuclear explosion, for example, like if a nuclear bomb went off, you would tell, because things like metal, like cars and things, could be radioactive. In the famous demon core experiment, where the demon core went off and well, it created neutron flux and killed one guy back in the 40s, I believe. Everybody's metal objects in their body had to be taken off because they were made radioactive. But typically speaking, just being exposed to radiation, X-rays, things like that does not make you radioactive. When people at the doctor come back and they're radioactive, it's because they were injected by a radioisotope. So they have not been made radioactive without contamination. They've been injected with something radioactive, okay? So typically speaking, it doesn't usually happen. Does that make sense? Oh, high-energy alpha bombardment can also cause it too, but that's just because alpha particles are protons and neutrons. Again, protons and neutrons, always protons and neutrons. Okay, gamma rays don't usually do it. It is actually potentially theoretically possible, I think, but you'd have to have ridiculously powerful gamma rays and all this other stuff. Okay, second question. You ordered some uranium from United Nuclear, 1 to 3,000 counts per minute, and you have an Inspector EXP Plus, same one I have, and you would like to know how to store it. Well, that's particularly low in activity. I mean, that's like really low. I have a 20 or 30,000 counts per minute piece of it right over there on my shelf. From this distance, 15 feet, my most sensitive scintillator can't even detect it. So it's reasonably safe. You know, of course, I'm not an expert. You know, throw that out. Go to HPS.org, the Health Physicists Society.org, and you can ask them that question. They will tell you if it's safe or not, and they're actually qualified to tell you. I'll tell you how I store it, though. Things like uranium, what I usually do is put them inside of something plastic and seal them. And then if I'm going to open them, and they've been in there for a while, they're strong enough, I like to take them onto my back porch and open them up and let the air blow across them for a second in case any radon gas builds up. It's usually very small for something like that, but just in case. Anyway, the plastic is good because the alpha particles hit the plastic and slow down more slowly than if they hit metal. If you actually put it against lead, and in fact, if you put a lot of radioactive material against lead, it actually creates X-rays. So don't do that. Put it inside of plastic. Then if you want, you can put lead around it. A couple millimeters of lead. You can go to rotometals.com. That's R-O-T-O metals.com, and they sell lead sheet, lead bricks, lead whatever. Just a little bit. You really don't have to cut it down that much, because just distance shields, you would not believe the effect of distance and shielding. It's quite impressive. I should produce a video on how to store uranium safely, but if I do that, I'd like to first find an actual expert who can then look at my video and qualify it as good or bad before I post it. I think that would be a good idea, because otherwise you guys wouldn't be able to, believe me, because I'm not actually an expert. I mean, I have a uranium collection and like dozens of radiation detectors, but I'm not actually an expert. So anyway, that would be an answer to your two questions. If that means anything whatsoever, hopefully it does. But there you go. Now I'm going to finish up the scotch. God, this is a good scotch. Oh, Glenfiddich Slayer Reserve. Wait. Yes. Slayer Reserve. 15 years single malt scotch.